We are now live. Please go ahead.
Good morning and namaskar. Welcome to another episode of the series Illness to Wellness. This is a series which has been going on almost for 2 years now. This is a series of webinars in which we bring up into foray the topics related to health, wellness, and prevention of disease. So welcome to all of you once again. Today, the topic of discussion is going to be health and fitness, the key to success. It's as it is already quite evident to all of you. It is a very, very important topic, and it is something which is of concern to all of us, because health and fitness is one thing which we all yearn to achieve. We all want to be healthy, we all want to be fit, and only if we can be healthy and we are fit enough, we can be successful. So how to achieve our ultimate goal of success while being healthy and fit? To discuss on that and to delve on this, we have very eminent specialists from the field of nutrition and health who are going to guide us about the various aspects of this. And to start the webinar, I would request Shri Anil Rajputji, who is the chairman of the CSR Council of ASSOCHAM. ASSOCHAM is the parent body which has been organizing these webinars since more than 2 years. So, sir, I would like to request you to start this webinar.
Thank you, Dr. Kesri. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome such a distinguished panel who's kind of gathered here. Ms. Mukta Pradhan, functional nutritionist, TEDx speaker and founder and CEO of I Thrive. Ms. Seema Singh, dietitian, nutritionist, and lifestyle consultant. And Dr. Subhashri Ray, corporate dietitian for Reliance Industry. And of course, Dr. Rajesh Kesri, founder and director, Total Care Control. Good morning and very warm welcome to yet another webinar on Illness to Wellness series. Actually, this campaign began for Illness to Wellness in the year 2016. And collectively, Dr. Kesri and his team and ASSOCHAM team have been going around to various places in the city of Delhi and conducting camps to share knowledge and experience with them, and also on the spot doing a lot of action to tell people they need to regularly monitor their vitals to remain healthy. Whilst we were doing that, pandemic came and it changed the entire physical interaction to moving everything online. And we, I kind of feel very happy and proud to share with this distinguished panel and all those people who joined us today. Since the time we have moved on to this online panel, we have held nearly 75 webinars on a host of matters pertaining to our health and well-being. We believe we have a responsibility to address to the best of our abilities the health issues facing individuals, societies, and the nation. For this, we are focused on qualitative engagement, where the best minds have been roped in. And they have provided their expert views, suggestions, and solutions on the subject at hand. And I am feeling so happy and proud that we have 3 very young minds today to share their experience and knowledge with all of us. It is with this mindset that we have approached a multitude of concerns, some which are generic and some that have been specific in the backdrop of pandemic. Today's topic, health and fitness, key to success, is the most basic and yet very important subject for all of us. You see, unless you remain fit, you cannot be healthy. And you can only be healthy if you are fit. So there is an immense correlation between the two. And which comes first is what we all know. And if you are fit, everything else falls in line. Health and fitness are the key to lead a fulfilling and successful life. And it is only when we have this that we can enjoy the beautiful journey of our life. Here, I am reminded of a quote by a legendary Bob Dylan when he said, "A man is a success if he gets up in the morning and goes to bed at night. And in between, he does what he wants to do. And in doing what he wants and to do it well, our body and mind have to be healthy." This is the most basic and yet the most important condition. It has been established beyond doubt that without good health, our bodies lack the energy and enthusiasm which is needed to do the things we love the most. So the important question, how can we attain health and fitness? This is what separates the boys from the men. First and the foremost, it requires discipline. It requires unwavering focus, prudent allocation of time. Remember, we all have 24 hours, and yet some achieve so much more, and pitifully, few very less. And what we need is actually self-accolades. Did you ask self-accolades? And what I mean by this? It is simply setting up of small tasks, both mental and physical, working towards them, achieving them, and patting yourself on the back. You are your own motivator and your own destiny guide. And most can be achieved by simply repeating this process I have mentioned day in and day out. Another critical element is eating. Eating right, that is, the need for a balanced diet can never be overstated. It is the fuel that powers our mind and body, the quality of which will determine the quality of our thoughts and quality of our physical footprints. A diet rich in vitamins and minerals, low in saturated fat, low in sugar and sodium, one which can healthy amounts of fruit and vegetables will go a long way in priming our body to attain longevity and success. Exercise is another vital spoke in the wheel of life, whether it is yoga, cycling, walking, running, weight training, engagement, and it leads to superior physical and mental well-being. It is not a coincidence that most successful people never underplay its importance. Working out is a habit that successful people have in common. According to Tom Colley, the author of Change Your Habits, 76% of rich and successful exercise at least, this is the minimum, 30 minutes every day. In fact, many billionaires give credit to their success and happiness to physical fitness. Richard Branson regularly plays tennis and jogs. Mark Zuckerberg works out at least 3 times a week. Oprah Winfrey does yoga and achieves a step target of 10,000 every day. Mark Cuban does cardio for an hour every day. So list goes on, people, pay a huge focus on exercise because that gives them both mental and physical fitness. It is that if people with such schedule can take out time, most of us are living by lying to ourselves and robbing our mind and body of this critical activity, but by not doing it regularly and making excuses that we don't have time. Time we have to find, and we all have a lot of time. I can share my personal example. Irrespective of what time I sleep, my morning wake up alarm is 5:30. Many a times I sleep very late, but I never get up late. So that gives me huge amount of time to catch up with my exercise routine. The COVID pandemic has brought the focus back on the need to balance physical and mental well-being. Anxiety disorders and depressions have witnessed a steep rise in this phase. Before the pandemic, India already had over 46 million suffering from depression disorders and over 50 million from anxiety disorder. We need to look carefully in this direction and what specifically needs to be done in this regard while addressing this particular aspect, which has gained a lot of attention, and rightly so. We have young and dynamic panel today in this webinar, and I'm eager to hear them. And I'm sure that all of us will be enriched by their views and suggestions on the subject. I wish you all the very best and great success. Thank you very much, and Jai Hind. Over to you, Dr. Kestri. You are on mute.
Thank you so much, sir, for that wonderful introduction and for your opening words. And you've said such important things. In fact, I would like to say that I had looked up a shloka from the Charak Samhita, and the last few words that you have said are exactly matching the essence of that shloka. I would start with that. In fact, it says that Sharirendriyam Satvatma Sanyoge. It's from Charak Samhita, and in Hindi it can be translated as शरीर, इंद्रियां, मन और आत्मा का संयोग ही आयुर्वेद है। ऋषियों ने दीर्घायुषी भव के लिए इन चारों के संयोग का महत्व बताया है। मनुष्य का स्वास्थ्य, उसकी कार्य क्षमता और उसकी आयु सब इस संयोग पर ही निर्भर है। स्वस्थ शरीर, इंद्रियों पर नियंत्रण, अच्छी सोच और आत्मा द्वारा प्रेरित सद्मार्ग पर चलकर मनुष्य सफलता की सीढ़ियां आसानी से चढ़ सकता है, निरोग रहकर खुश रह सकता है। So this is from Charak Samhita, the basis of Ayurveda, and it says, in short, many of the things that you've just mentioned. Now, I would like to begin our session, and I would request a panelist to give a definition of health and fitness. First of all, how do our listeners understand what is health and fitness for them, whether they're fit enough, whether they're healthy enough or not? Can you put some easy definitions for understanding of our listeners and our viewers? Any of you, if you would like to pitch in.
Sure. So, first of all, a deep, thank you so much for inviting us here. I think health is a subject that, thanks to 2020, became pretty mainstream. But despite that, I still see that there's so much work that we could do, so much work. Like India still continues to be the diabetes capital of the world. So there's so much that we can do. Now, to answer your question on what is the definition of health and fitness, um, there would be different definitions by different people. If you go look up, WHO would have its own definition, but this is Mukta Pradhan's perspective that on any day, from the time you wake up till the time you go to bed, you should have the energy and the enthusiasm and the joy for life to be able to do everything that you have planned for the day without any aches, without any pains, without any need for external stimulants, without needing that sutta break that most corporate people take, without any of that, right? Like if you can wake up knowing what is it you're here on this planet for and what are you going to accomplish by the end of the day, accomplish all of that, pass on that energy around you, and then go to bed peacefully without any issues, and then go into a deep, refreshing, relaxing sleep, and then wake up the next morning in the same way. That is my definition of health. You could be a marathoner, you could be an athlete, you could be a housewife, you could be somebody who's a head honcho in the corporate world, you could be a pregnant woman, but that is the state that anyone needs to be in if I would consider them healthy and fit.
Wonderful. I think Mugdha, you've given out a perfect definition, because when we started this topic, I was actually perplexed, because from the medical point of view, fitness means different things for different people, because people have different responsibilities. Fitness may be different for a pilot, and fitness may be different for an office worker or a school going kid. So, and it is quite confusing for all of us. And the way you have simply put out the definition of fitness, I think it is very easily understandable and simple for all of us. Now, going from, because today you all are from some management background, and I'm sure we have lots of corporate executives who are listening to us. As Rajput sir has mentioned in his foreword, that it is very important to make a habit of being fit and make a habit of being healthy. Now, this is not a one-day task. It is a daunting task, and it has to be done day in and day out, every day of the week, and every week of the month, and every month of the year. So it becomes quite complex in that way. But as in any management process, the one very important thing for us to do is to set a goal. So until unless we don't know what are we setting out to do, how and are we going to do that? So next question to my honorable panelists would be, how to set goals for a normal adult person? What should be the goals of health and fitness? How do we set the right goals?
First of all,
Yes, Subhashi.
yeah, I would like to say, first of all, the person has to see what is the goal for the individual. There may be the clinical goal to be the disease free or control the disease or prevent the disease. Another may be the maintenance of the weight. And one may have also not to maintain the weight, but to gain some endurance. So accordingly, there will be the SMART goals. And I always say, whenever you make the goal, then always keep one goal hand in hand. This is a physical goal, but keep the mental goal also along with that. Because when we see the lifestyle, okay, clinical problems we'll see with the reports and all, and we plan the therapeutic diet. But when we see, weight maintenance or weight management or lifestyle problems, then a lot of problems are coming from the psychological part. So we have to see that psychologically also we have to understand what our body is demanding, why the demands are there, and accordingly what goals will be set. It has to be flexible. It can be short and long term, and it can be changed time to time. It should not be very, very rigid. So suppose I say I have a client who wants to lose 15 kg. So now it should be achievable. It should be realistic. So 15 kg cannot be achieved in a 1 month. They come and say, I want to lose 15 kg. Just tell me how to lose quickly. So I say there is a goal, monthly goal, that is 2 to 5 kg healthy. So you multiply, months into 2 to 5. So whatever will be rate will be your, total duration of the goal. So you have to see that maybe you may take 3 months or you may take, 10 months. So 10 months duration you will have to take. And then long-term goal is 15 kilos. But in between there are smart goals, the smaller goals that you have to identify. Why do you eat? When do you eat? What are the triggers for the eating? And what your lifestyle is demanding. Along with that, if there is any deficiency, we have to take along with that. So, I mean, there are many goals along with one goal.
Thank you, Seemaji. Dr. Subhashri, I would like to come to you with the same question. Let's say if an adult comes to you for counseling, what are the goals that you have in your mind? What do you expect and how do you plan the counseling? Because we have so many people listening to us right now. So how can they understand whether they are fit enough and if they have to start indulging in any other activities related to health and fitness? How do they assess themselves?
Okay, first of all, thank you very much for having me here. It's an honor. See, for me, it's very important that we work holistically. And when I say holistic, that means taking care of a person from a 360 point of view, because I don't see much of a result in people who are not mentally healthy. That is a very, very important point. For example, if somebody has eating disorder, he cannot control craving, or the person is stressed or tensed all the time. And if anyone advise him that, even I, advise that person that, okay, you go and do gymming, this is good for you, you follow this, you follow that. I never seen that it's feasible for that person because they're struggling with some other problem. So nutritional assessment, or I would say that health assessment, is the first step what I do. I take very detailed that where a person is standing in front in terms of psychological health, not very detailed psychological health, but the motivation part, of course. If there is a craving, because eating disorder is a part of the dietary intervention that I do. And that is the first thing that I at least try to solve, because then only somebody is able to continue with a particular health regime. The second thing comes when it comes, the mentality of the too much obsession with the scale. So that is something which is another thing. For example, I'm losing this kg, that kg, but that is just a scale, right? So metabolically healthy doesn't really depend on the body weight. Body weight is one parameter, of course, but along with that, how is your metabolism working? How metabolically healthy you are? So these are also the parameters what I take into consideration, and I go for a holistic nutrition approach where I ask the person to make small changes in their diet and lifestyle gradually, and giving them an option to have locally available food and customize their health according to their need, according to their health goal. And then the changes are measured gradually. So that can be a scale, that can be overall well-being, energy, how the person feel in terms of performance. I mean, everything matters, right? So this is something which I do, and that's why when it comes to the holistic well-being approach, so it takes more time, and it's always developing a lifestyle than giving a short-term result to a person. So I generally do not start with the term that you will be losing weight, because that's very specific, and that is one parameter. So it's always the adopting a healthy lifestyle for yourself. So if you're eating healthy, if you're doing physical activity regularly, if you are doing meditation, if you are having sound sleep, you will be losing weight gradually, right? So that is something which is not a target point for myself. So I usually prefer to provide the person and the family a holistically healthy lifestyle. So that is how I approach to my patients, I would say. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So what I understand from our discussion about setting the goals is there are some points which all of you have mentioned and which all of you have underlined, and they're actually very important. And what I personally feel always when I'm interacting with my patients, because my patients are mostly people who have metabolic diseases like high blood pressure, diabetes, and such. So there are some very important things that the messages I would rather say that we should carry across to people who we are counseling or meeting. And I personally feel that those messages should be very specific, because when we talk in general, people actually don't, the messages that they take away may also be general and they don't know what to do. They may think that, yes, we need to have a healthy metabolic diet, but actually, what is that? So I always try to be specific, as you earlier mentioned, that weight is very important. Actually, many of the diseases are caused because of excess weight, because of the belly fat. So decreasing weight is very important, and as you all have mentioned, that it has to be gradual, it cannot be sudden, but weight definitely is very important. And one of the ways of going about decreasing weight and maintaining all other healthy parameters, that is of blood cholesterol, of sugar, even blood pressure, these are the common non-communicable diseases that we are facing today, on which ASSOCHAM has done a lot of work. For that, a healthy diet is very important. We are going to discuss diet soon. And physical endurance, as you all mentioned, and Rajput sir has mentioned, is also very important, because we should be able to perform our work, do what we are supposed to do. So a person should assess whether he is capable of physically working out, doing his daily activities, as you've just mentioned. So I think these are the things on which every individual should assess themselves, and they can be easily done. And if they find that there's a deficiency in any of these, then obviously they should go to a counselor, a dietitian, a nutritional specialist, and a doctor, and further on chart out a way to improve things. Now, since we are talking about success, I think we are very lucky today that we have with us Shri Anil Rajputji, and he is the one best person amongst all of us who can tell us about success. So today I'm going to come to you with a question. That do you see any relationship between health and fitness and perseverance? Because I think that's a very important aspect in achieving anything in life, in going over the obstacles. What is your opinion about this, sir?
You're asking me?
Yes, sir, I'm asking you.
I have such a distinguished panel. Okay.
Yes.
See, I'll share with you.
Yes.
See, healthy mind and healthy body both are very critical for your success. And this I've learned from golf. I must share this with you. This is one game which you go to play every day, and every day you are a learner. You are still learning. And you go the next day to learn again. So life is like that. You mentioned about perseverance. This is taught to you on the course. While you are there, you are best of environment, best of friends. You exchange a lot of information and knowledge, and you share with each other your experiences in that short period of time. But at the same time, you are keeping your health in a very active state. Now, I mentioned this as a sporting activity. Now, it is not necessary that everybody needs to play golf. What is most important that you must, find as to which activity you will enjoy most in your life to keep yourself fit and healthy. Some people enjoy walking. Some people enjoy going to a gym. Some people, want to do yoga. Some people I know who do cycling every day. Okay. Now, unless and until in life you have passion for something, you will not achieve any success. And if you don't have any routine, what will happen that whole day you will not have any routine, because routine will come with the disciplined life, that every day I must get up at this time and I have to do this activity. This is my breakfast time, this is my lunch time, this is my working time, and this is my reading time. So in life, as somebody very correctly mentioned, you need to set goals. Okay. And you need to set up achievable goals. And those achievable goals you can set, healthy, like somebody mentioned about losing weight. Okay. You can't just set a goal that I'm going to lose 15 kgs in 15 days, because that is an unrealistic goal. But if you set up a realistic goal, you will definitely achieve success. So my advice to everybody would be to set small goals, achieve those goals, and then keep on increasing your desire to achieve more and more success in the goals that you set out for yourselves.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Dr. Rajesh, so I
Yes.
have a slightly different approach when it comes
Yes.
to both goals and actually what results in resilience, perseverance, and like a sustainable and permanent change, right? So what we do is, and this is greatly inspired by James Clear, who wrote Atomic Habits. I don't know if you've had a chance to read that book, but anyone attempting to make any kind of changes in life, that's an incredible book. So we don't even look at a goal, because what happens with goals is they are short term. And a lot of people end up tying their happiness to that goal, that I'll be happy when I lose 15 kgs. I'll be happy when I am disease free, right? They don't realize happiness is a day-to-day experience of life. So instead of making it goals, or instead of saying that, okay, this is the process we are going to follow, we go beyond that and we actually start working on recreating an identity itself, right? So let's say you come to us today and you say, hey, I just want to feel better, or I have this thing happening, and can you help? And we start with the question like, why? First, why do you want some change, right? What is triggering that reason for change? If you've lived for 40 years on this planet, why is it that today you're coming and talking to us? So why? And the second question is, who do you want to be? Like 3 months from now, after partnering with us, who do you want to be? So we ask people to start thinking of a brand new identity that they want to recreate for themselves. And there they start describing, okay, I'm a person who works out 3 times a week. I'm a person who has a lot of energy. I'm a person who doesn't have diseases. I'm a person who people look up to as a role model for health. And from there, then it becomes so much easier to start saying, okay, what would this person do on a day-to-day basis if you're this person, right? So let's chart out a plan for who this person is over the next 3 months, the things that you can do on a day-to-day basis. And that's where we start bringing in small, tiny habits, right? So I think what I've seen work really well for people when they have to make some sort of a permanent and sustainable change to their lifestyle and their health is when we start bringing in these tiny habits that we call atomic habits, that are, the smallest, tiniest change. Like, okay, somebody who wants to go work out but doesn't find the motivation to get up from bed and go out every morning. We'll say, like, do the smallest thing. What is the smallest thing you have to do to work out? You have to have, like, wear your gym shoes and step outside the door. So we'll tell them that, okay, keep your gym shoes at a place where you can see them when you get up and go to brush. So that becomes the tiniest trigger, right? Acha, my gym shoes are here, I have to wear them. Then you wear that. Then you work on the next trigger. Now you've worn your shoes, what is the next step you have to take, right? So we actually work at that deep level. And over time, we recreate an identity. And then, it just takes, depending on whom you listen to, some people say 21 days, some people say 90 days, but it usually takes 90 days to really create lasting changes in terms of habits. Do this for 90 days, right? Like, start recreating who you want to be. What are the things that person would do? Break it down to the smallest habit of that person. And over 90 days, we've actually seen incredible transformations happen. Of course, we do a lot of blood work and all of that. Based on that, we actually work on people who have serious health problems. But this is the process that we use internally, and it's worked beautifully.
Yes, I agree with you completely. This is what we call in our practice in diabetes counseling the theory of change. The most important thing, the first step is to sensitize the person about the change,
Right.
the reason for change, why it has to be brought out, what is the importance of the change. Once that has been done, then slowly, if the person, your patient has understood, you have to bring about small changes, then reinforce those changes. One very important aspect is reinforcement of those changes, those habits, those new habits which you are about to bring out. And once they have been established, it is very important to control. This is just as in management, planning, organization, coordinating and control. Because what happens is that these new habits that we inculcate in our patients, they often, that actually is the time, 90 days to 6 months, they often die out. So they have to be reinforced again and again, and the patients have to be counseled again. Now I'd like to come down to some specifics, some specific aspects of, let's start with our diet. Subhashi, I would like to come to you and ask about gut health, because there's a lot of talk in the town about gut health, about gut-friendly foods, and you yourself have mentioned that in your introduction. So tell us, what is gut health actually, in simple terms?
Right. Yes, I mean, I'm really, I always get intrigued to speak about gut and the importance of gut in our life. And I've written a series with 3 parts, in 3 parts for a news media. And when I was exploring the results, I mean, when I was reading the studies, so practically gut health is, a different organism, or I would say an organ within an organ. So the network is so big, right? So we have trillions of bacteria, both good and bad, staying inside our colon, and they're deciding that what would be your health outcome, whether it would be good or bad. So what you eat, it's extremely important to keep the balance of that bacteria, right? Now, and surprisingly, I mean, why this is so important, I mean, why we should be actually taking care of, or, change our approach, I believe, or even I started to, work on this front, that if I mean, gut is so important that half of your, genes, I mean, the practically the body, our human body is 50-50 of human cells and bacteria cells. And they have even 150-fold more genes than we do. So basically, they're running our body, starting from our mood, very complicated mental health issues, for example, Alzheimer's, anxiety. Also, they are controlling inflammation and inflammation-induced obesity and diabetes type 2. So all these are now established by a considerable body of research. And also, 70% of our immunity is located in gut. We also have brain and gut connection via axis, which is controlled by the vagus nerve. And it makes sure that what you are eating directly impacting your colon, and so it's directly impacting to your brain also. In this condition, if we are not taking care of our gut health, for example, somebody, I ran a poll in Twitter some days back, so I have around 40.2K followers, and they reported, I mean, the poll found that 26%, they said that they are suffering from bloating. It was just a 2 hours of poll, 26% instantly reported they are suffering from bloating all the time. And I'm sure that a lot of people are listening to me today, and I keep on getting this kind of feedback. So bloating is a serious issue, and we usually try to manage it with antacid. We try to manage it with, some home remedies sometimes, but do not really look into the diversity of the diet we are eating every day. Because the balance between gut microbiota, I mean, the good and the bad one, that when get hampered, we call the condition dysbiosis. And dysbiosis leads to metabolic endotoxinemia, that is when the bacteria they're releasing the endotoxins, which is leading to a condition called leaky guts, and then low-grade inflammation and obesity and diabetes type 2. So in our research, we saw that, and here Dr. Rajesh is there to throw some more light to that. One study reported that worldwide 90% of diabetes type 2 was being connected to gut microbiota dysbiosis, or the imbalance we are talking here. So this is what the study is so important. And currently we also have a subject called Psychobiotics, where we are trying to understand the role of probiotics, which are particular food with live bacterial culture that decides what would be your gut health together. And particular probiotics, those are affecting, or I would say those are nurturing the psychology or psychiatry of nutrition, is known as psychobiotics. So nutrition is evolving, and the role of gut, for example, like I said, that the bacteria which are there and which are making sure that whether there is a particular balance which is being followed, whether there is a chance to prevent inflammation, even gut health and COVID-19 research. So we have one was being published by Mohammed Adir and colleagues in 2019 itself. So it's a very fresh study. I always talk with a reference because I keep on researching, and that is what I believe that evidence should speak. That is one thing. That is one study where they have shown that people who were taking probiotic food had more, lesser, I would say, inflammatory markers. For example, CRP, protein C-reactive protein, and TNF alpha. So these are all biomarkers. And who were not having probiotic foods, they had bad bacteria colony present in their colon. So they have already studied that. The other research, other paper is already in preprint. So we are also trying to see that how gut health has impacted COVID-19 and the disease outcome. So this is why gut health is extremely important, because it connects everything else.
Thank you so much, Dr. Subhashri. Here, I would just like to add, that yes, this is very true that the colonic bacteria, the microbiota that we have in our body is very important, and it is a determining factor for many of the diseases. But because we have so many people listening, I would just like to throw on light on some symptoms that you mentioned, that is about bloating and distension. These are usually symptoms associated with irritable bowel syndrome, which is quite a common disease, which is a very common disease nowadays in our country. It may be present in anywhere from 16 to 30%, and in practices, it may be up to 50% of patients complaining, having any gastrointestinal complaints. So it is a very common complaint and problem, and the reasons for this can be multifactorial, and obviously including dysbiosis. And this is not a very serious problem, actually. It is related more to stress, to the nervous system, than it is a functional disease. It is not an organic disease usually. So people should not be that worried about these. One of the reasons why this happens is because people are actually more worried about it, about the intestine, the tummy, than anything else. Now, carrying on forward, I'd like to come to Seema ji. We have had some discussion about probiotic foods. So would you please throw some light on what are probiotic foods?
Probiotic food, these are including our homemade curds and yogurt, basically. So yogurt is the commercial product, but the curd is homemade. So in Indian scenario, we can depend on more of curds. So these are the, like we are talking about gut bacteria, healthy gut bacteria. So these are the food which helps, in maintaining the gut integrity and the gut bacteria. And all the good benefit of probiotic we can get through curd. So we have another category that is called prebiotic. So that is also helpful in maintaining the gut bacteria. So that is basically helping in the nutshell, the result we will get by eating the probiotic and prebiotic in terms of having good and healthy digestion. As we talked about bloating and all, so this is also the outcome if we are not having the good digestion in the body. So if we are maintaining, high fiber food, then outcome will be, we will be able to have a lot of prebiotic in the diet. So like wheats we can go for fruits, we can actually go for many of the things available in Indian diet like onion and garlic. So bloating and acidity, these are the problems when these are the actually outcome of unhealthy gut bacteria and the less of the bacteria, good bacteria in the body. So what I have seen, since we were talking bloating, so what I have seen, bloating becomes the big problem for the people when they are not able to sit in the office. So I would like to put the highlight because one of my patients, she came to me with the bloating problem. This was a serious bloating problem. I cannot name it, but I was sitting in my hospital and she came to me that, ma'am, I'm having this problem and this is that serious that she thought of ending the life, because she was not able to perform in the office and because of the gaseous issues and all, she left so many jobs and she cannot sit in the crowd. So she came to me, I want to lose weight, but when I inquired in detail, then I got to know the main problem is bloating, which is more than the weight management. So I put her onto the 1 month lifestyle modification, good diet and all, and bloating went away. So this is the outcome of the healthy, lifestyle and a healthy diet, which is including high fiber and the good probiotic in the diet.
Thank you so much. That was very important, and I would just like to add here that, as you very rightly mentioned, that there are foods which are called prebiotics, and these foods are the ones which actually help the good bacteria sustain and thrive in our colon, in our large intestines. So, Bogdaji, would you like to throw some light on the prebiotics and just continue in that? What are the best breakfast? What should be the best breakfast things that you would suggest our listeners? And they would definitely contain some element of prebiotics, I'm sure.
All right. So I think Seema quite well covered what prebiotics are. Now the thing is, see, we work with a lot of patients who come to us with IBS and SIBO and all of that. So sometimes we've seen that even adding too many prebiotics and fiber can actually exacerbate or aggravate the condition, because there's immense amount of dysbiosis, which means the bacteria, the viruses, the fungi, everything that's there in the gut, the parasites, everything, they're completely messed up and they're out of balance. So you give them extra fiber or you give them more prebiotic food, that's going to drive even the bad guys into a hyperdrive. So sometimes we kind of are a little careful. So generically, I don't advise too much on focusing on fiber unless the gut is absolutely ready to process all that fiber. What I have seen works like really beautifully for most people is bananas. You do a combination of bananas and yogurt, and then you have a probiotic and prebiotic in one shot that's gone into the system. What I focus on more, instead of doing probiotic and prebiotic, even at iThrive in the practice, we focus on healing the gut inside, right? So if you look at our ancestors who were hunter-gatherers and who were foragers, they never really thought of prebiotic, probiotic, right? Like they never did that. They just ate off the land. And why they could eat off the land and like really live well without chronic diseases was because their guts were not as damaged as we see nowadays. Processed food, I think both speakers covered that processed food, sugar, inflammatory foods, even excess seed oils, all these vegetable oils create a lot of damage inside the gut. So even before we go to the prebiotic probiotic approach, we first start preparing the gut. So we bring in amino acids like glutamine, we bring in collagen that really helps heal the gut, we bring in herbs like slippery elm and marshmallow root. We focus on healing these, we figure out what's really going on in terms of the internal gut health, right? So we spoke of dysbiosis and how the microbiome might not really be balanced. It's also important to know what is really going on. So there are tests, there are advanced tests that can tell you that. There are simple tests. Somebody who comes to us with a lot of acid reflux and acidity, we first ask them to look for an H. pylori. We run them through the H. pylori panel, because often H. pylori, which is a bacteria, can do such immense acid attacks, and people are like taking antacids and gelucils and all the PPIs, and they just don't know it's a bacteria that's causing that trauma. Sometimes, like even with the autistic kids, we do more advanced stool tests where we get a complete gut microbiome assay. Then it makes it easier and more targeted to know exactly which foods to send in, because there are some bacteria that will ferment fruits really fast and create more gas and bloating, right? So it's really important to know what's going on inside and then do targeted therapies. And segueing into breakfast, right? So that's the first food that goes into the body, right? So for a lot of people, especially youngsters who come to us, I've seen they'll eat outside, like they work really hard through the day, they're putting in long hours, and then dinner becomes that meal where they feel they have to reward themselves with something nice. Now, the definition of nice for me and the definition of nice for them will be very different. For me, what is nice is something that's going to give me health. For a lot of people, definition of nice food is something that's really stimulating, hyper stimulating their brain and their taste buds. So we've seen there's a lot of people, like, for dinner, they go all out and then they eat a lot of bad stuff, experience gas and bloating. In the morning, they're like, even bowel movements and everything is kind of painful, or some of them suffer from even diarrhea. But that happens in the bathroom and then they forget about it. And then they come back to the kitchen and they've forgotten how their body felt from the time they ate that meal in the night and went to the bathroom. So, what happens with breakfast is you're reintroducing food into your body after a long fast. Most people sleep through the night, and usually there's an 8 to 10 hour gap between your last meal and your first meal. So that first meal can also determine how you end up feeling through the day. And what works really best is you give your body protein in the morning, you give your body good quality fat in the morning. People who select more sugary, refined carbohydrate based breakfast like white breads and all these cornflakes and these pour out of a box dabba things, right? So those things cause a lot of insulin spikes and sugar crashes that will make them want to keep eating and snacking and feel low on energy through the day. The breakfast of champions and the breakfast of somebody who can like create good quality energy throughout the day and feel really full and do work, um, turns out to be eggs. Like that's my go-to breakfast for most people, if they're open to eating eggs, right? So eggs give you both protein and the good quality fat that you need, and it's also really satiating, right? Like you eat it, you feel full. Otherwise, what I would recommend if somebody is a vegetarian or a vegan is doing chillas, right? So green moong chillas, sprouted moong chillas, besan chillas. Unless somebody has like serious digestive issues and they have gas and bloating, besan might cause trouble. But eggs paired with fruit, or doing like sprouted moong chillas for your protein needs in the morning, along with something like a fruit smoothie. Or, if you want to just eat something little different that's carb rich but not going to be unhealthy, then I would say pick a traditional breakfast. Idlis, dosas, even poha once in a while is okay, but poha I've seen causes a lot of energy crashes through the day. So like just bring eggs in, they're really good. Like
Thank
that's
you.
my
Thank you so much. That was really very nice. I'd just like to add here that as you've been mentioning, and we've been talking about gut health and probiotics, it is actually very important. And in our culture, in our country, it has been a tradition of eating fermented foods. Like many of us have idlis, or as you said, chila. Usually the chila is made from fermented dals and all.
Pickles.
So these fermented foods are actually very good, and the fermented drinks that we frequently have, like charge, together with our meals, and especially if we have them in the breakfast or after the breakfast, they're very good. They're very good prebiotics. Actually, they help sustain and maintain our intestinal bacteria, the microbiota, as you were telling. So I think these foods should also be included in our breakfast, in our day-to-day meals. Fermented foods and fermented drinks. All over our country, we have different such foods, but they're quite common in our usual daily diets. I'd request Subhashri ji to tell us about, are there any other items that you would also advise our audience to include in their breakfast? What, according to you, is the ideal breakfast?
All right. So, I'm very much agreed with Gupta, because however, I mean, it's so important that we are ensuring that each meal has some protein, which lacking, which is, I would say one thing for sure that these are, because we all know that there's so many surveys and all the reports we keep on getting. India doesn't eat protein. We don't eat protein. And on an average, only 47 grams per day protein per person taking. That is a very huge survey that is being happened. And we are lacking in protein. I would say that type 2 diabetes, the type 2 diabetes, epidemic, which is going on in our country, and we are practically the diabetes capital of the world. I feel somewhere there is a huge intake of refined carbohydrate-based food. That is a concern, and we need to address that. We need to address that because, however, home-based cooked meal, absolutely okay, but even non-vegetarian people, right? Even non-vegetarian people, they do not eat non-veg in their each meal. You will not see that somebody is eating non-vegetarian in each meal or every day. And when we talk about plant protein, there are taboos to take better quality of plant protein. For example, soya bean. Most of people think that soya is absolutely bad. I'm not talking about the seeds oil. Those are inflammatory. But soybean and tofu, for example, chunk, these are something which people are not I would say that they are not pro to these foods. And that is why I always try to provide a healthy plate kind of menu. For example, so you choose one source of protein, one source of fiber, healthy carbs, for example, one healthy fat, and some probiotic in diet, right? So typical breakfast, what we see now, for example, instead of, now we can't really tell people that, okay, from tomorrow you will not have your upma. Nobody will follow that, right? So what I try to do that, I try to make them eat dalia upma or quinoa based upma instead of going rava upma all of a sudden, because see, the glycemic index is so important here. So that is one thing I do. Also, chila is something which is good, but again, I mean, if if they are eating eggs, I prescribe, I do recommend eggs, no problem at all. I mean, I tell them that, okay, so 2 to 3 eggs, I mean, these are totally fine to have. Whole eggs, because dietary cholesterol and blood cholesterol are not connected, that we already established by a lot of research studies, right? So these are the time when the research, nutrition research and recommendation is also evolving. There is no solid proof that saturated fats are extremely unhealthy for our body. So this vilifying of fat, that do not eat fat and just reduce fat from your diet, these are not backed by current research, which is being absolutely, in light of new research. So this is something which I recommend, rather than giving a person a lot of poha and upma, or I would say bread. So bread is inflammatory as well, because the more processed it is, more inflammatory it is. So better to make some dalia upma, I mean some whole based, food, for example. So I don't mind giving them low fat fruits also. If they have, chance to get avocado, so that is like, so in Indian scenario, avocado is not available, but at least they can have guava as one source of, fiber, but it has to be low sugar, right? In fact, this blanket recommendation that how much fruit you want to have, you can have. So fructose sugar also has deleterious effect on liver, right? So these are some current guidelines. I'm trying to tell people that, okay, low carb doesn't mean keto. They have to understand that. So whenever you talk about low carbohydrate, people straight away think that you're putting them in ketogenic diet, which is extremely, I mean, it's just 30 grams of carbs a day, right? So my PhD is in ketogenic diet, or you can go maximum up to 50. But low carb, you can have 120 to 150, maximum 150, and that is a good amount of carbohydrate. And carbohydrate is not mandatory in our diet. I mean, if you see, I mean, you can survive without carbohydrate. I mean, that is what is the current recommendation, because everything comes back to refined sugar. Everything comes back to refined sugar. I mean, whenever I see that a person is suffering, so like when we talk about our ancestors and our lifestyle, they are not connected. We don't have that kind of physical activity in current time. We sit on a desk, like we are speaking here, But in previous time, people used to walk a lot, run a lot. They did not have so many vehicles to travel. They used to walk. That in that condition, 350 grams or maybe 250 grams of carbohydrates per day were totally fine. And even today, it's totally fine for a person who is an athlete, who is very active with the cardiovascular activities, but not for people who are working from the desk. So I believe that the breakfast typically I try to provide is a high protein, healthier fat, low carbohydrate option in all scenarios.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much, Subhashri. Thank you. I would just like to add here that some very important things which we advise all our patients and those who visit doesn't matter whether they're diabetic, hypertensive, or even normal healthy individuals who don't have any problems. Uh, Whole grains are very important and they're very healthy, and they actually should constitute the part of breakfast. One of the best breakfasts that we have in our country, which I'm sure has been there since ages, but now probably we had forgotten since past some time, but it is coming back, is the wheat dalia. Wheat dalia is one of the best things that can be had for breakfast. It is whole grain. It is slowly absorbed. It doesn't give any peaks in blood sugar levels and no rise in cholesterol levels. So I think these are few things which are indigenous, which are accessible to all, and they're cheap also. We can make some changes in our habits, and we should include whole grains or oats, and there are different types of grains available now which you can and which we should be using in our breakfast, because breakfast is a very important meal of the day. It sets our day, the beginning of the day. Seema ji, what should be the gap
Sorry,
between meals?
Dr.
Is there
Rajesh,
any?
before we go ahead,
Yes,
sorry to
yes.
interrupt, but when we are talking about breakfast and we have you and two more panel here, I would like to understand that what is our recommendation for intermittent fasting? Because that breakfast is not mandatory, right? I mean, so do we recommend, I mean, what is your idea? I mean, can we just have discussion on that front later on, if not
Yes,
now?
we'll have discussion on that later on
Yeah,
when we are
yeah.
going to talk about name diets. But the thing is, right now we are talking about all individuals, because not
Right.
everyone is doing intermittent fasting. It is quite rare for people to do such fasting and that to adhere to it. So now, as of now, we are discussing for normal individuals how to have a nutritious diet, how to be healthy, how to be fit, and as a result, successful in their life. So what I want is I want to give some tidbits, some specific message which people can easily follow, which is accessible to everyone, which everyone can do in their daily routines. It may not be possible for everyone to buy avocado, which costs 1,200 or 2,000 rupees a kg. So, my request to the panel is give some specific messages which our usual listeners can follow and do in their everyday life and be healthy. This is more important for us. So, Sivaji, what should be the gap between the meals? Do you specify any time, any gaps? कि भाई इतनी देर का difference होना चाहिए.
Yes, of
Breakfast और
course.
lunch or dinner में.
Yes, of course. Before answering this question, I would like to add, a concluding point into your, breakfast composition. Like there can be the Indian cereals into the breakfast. I firmly believe, being a clinical dietitian, that there should be the good composition of breakfast to be taken, because we are breaking the fast of minimum 8 to 10 hours. For some, it may be 12 hours by the time we reach to the breakfast. So there has to be some carbohydrate, whether it is diabetic or non-diabetic. The carbohydrate in the morning is a must, and it can come through, bajra dalia, it can come through the
Very
wheat
true.
dalia, it can come
Very
through
true.
the oats, it can come through the utpam, it can come through the rice and dal idli, it can come through the vegetable upma. Why can't we talk about how to modify, the traditional diet? If the someone is habitual of having upma, we can add 3/4 amount of vegetables into that, and they can add the semolina, and then they can have their favorite upma. I have all kind of patients coming and they are having all that and they are not having any sort of inflammation, any problem. This inflammation word has, it is giving the threat to the world. So I mean to say, if we will remain to, we will keep this conversation close to the normal. Everyone is not having the inflammation in the world. So it is hardly people are having. The main thing is lifestyle changes. So in the breakfast, which is the main, food we can have at home or on the go, there has to be, some protein, carbs I have mentioned. They can be the missi roti, various things, poha can be added. And then dalia, as you also said, I'm also supporting. Sometimes if you don't have time, if you have leftover of night, the dal, you can mix with the vegetables or you can mix with the flour and you can make the stuffed chapati and have with the curd. So you who have the composition of protein, carbohydrate and your yogurt. So
Absolutely.
there has to be three things in the breakfast. One is the cereal, another is the high protein food, which can be in the form of besan, sprouts,
Right.
eggs, paneer, tofu, and the third thing would be beverage that can be in the part of milk or curd. I avoid tea and coffee in the breakfast or along with any meal. So this was about the breakfast. Second thing, you asked about the how much gap should be in between two meals. So since we are discussing the lifestyle and illness to wellness, so we all are, living in the corporate world and working or non-working, we all are having, short timings. So maybe all the people are working in the family or maybe two people are working. So housewife is also running around and she started following the same pattern, that morning breakfast and the night dinner or maybe in between teas and all. So between two meals, there should be at least 3 hours of the gap, not more than that. If we are increasing the gap, then there may be the bloating, there may be the acidity, there may be the gas problem. But PCOD, we have seen with PCOD, they work well with the 3 meals only. They don't require actually mid meals. For the normal people, the 5 meal pattern will work. There they can take the breakfast, lunch, dinner, and in between 2 mid meals. So nutshell, 3 hours maximum.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. In fact, I would like to agree with you that carbohydrates are very important. They should be present in the breakfast together with proteins and fat. And one thing on fair, I would just like to allay here for all our audience that carbohydrates are not the culprit. They are not so bad. They should be had in your daily regime, in your daily diet. They are very important. In fact, 50% of all our diet as per calories should constitute the carbs, because many studies have shown, studies conducted all over the world and with hundreds of thousands of people, that either low carbohydrate, very low carbohydrate, or very high carbohydrate content in diet is detrimental. It is linked to increased mortality and morbidity. So this 50 to 55% of constitution of dietary carbohydrate is good. Now it depends on us and on you nutritionists. What is the type of carbohydrate that you recommend? But carbohydrate for a normal diet is quite essential. When you come to weight loss diets, that's a different thing. But I think carbs should not be made the culprit, and people should not be made afraid of having rotis or dalia or just avoiding carbohydrates altogether, because that actually can be detrimental to health.
Even in
Now,
weight
one question.
management, carbohydrate can be eaten.
Yes, even during weight
Yeah.
management, carbohydrates can be had because they're 0-calorie carbs also. So that obviously depends upon your recommendations. Now, one question in which I would like all of you to contribute to is, tell us about some healthy snacks, because all our listeners, like you're having tea, they also want to have tea, want to have some snacks with that. So what would be the healthy snacks?
I can go first. So this is what we recommend to even our clients, patients, whatever you want to call them. We ask them to stock up on fruits. Again, like Dr. Shubhashree said, that this is not indiscriminately eating fruits throughout the day. But if you're feeling hungry, if it's at 3 p.m., 4 p.m. time, a fruit is a much better snack to have than a biscuit. or whatever Haldiram Sev Bhujia and everything, right? I won't go too much into brand names, and they're very easy, right? Like you can stock up for the week, you can keep them at home. There's variety. Sometimes you can have something that's a little sour, and you can pick seasonal, you can pick organic. So fruits is first. Second is you could also like again, I'm coming back to eggs. I know I spoke about it in breakfast, but again, eggs are really wonderful even as snacks, right? You could just boil, like this is especially for the work from home situation that a lot of people are in. Just keep 2-3 eggs for boiling, and like in 15 minutes you have a quick snack that you can just sprinkle some salt and chili pepper and have that. We also teach a lot of recipes, right? So like Seema said, that why can't we just make alterations to our the food that we've gotten used to eating and make healthier versions out of them, and then use them as foods that are going to heal our body. So we teach a lot of we actually do share a lot of recipes where you could use things like oats and our millets, so our traditional millet flours like jowar and bajra and ragi. Use these along with sweeteners that are safe, like date paste or raisin paste. So you're not using sugar. You're using sweetness that's coming in a matrix form that's naturally available in nature. And then you're making recipes with these, right? So you could make cookies with these, you could make laddus with these, and you could stock up and store, especially very, very useful for busy moms who have kids, right? Like you could make these in bulk on a weekend and keep them in the fridge depending on what the recipe is. So cookies, laddus that are homemade with uh, good quality healthy ingredients. And then also, like if somebody likes savory stuff, right, again if you could use like a lot of dal and pulse flours, so like moong dal flours and chana flours, and again mix them with millet or rice flour so that you get your essential amino acids in a combination. And you can make things like you can do baked chaklis, you can do baked save, and make, so a lot of these recipes can be made in bulk and stored, and you could have these as snack items. Somebody who likes beverages as their snack, right, like that 4 p.m. thing when you want to drink something, you could even do a wonderful concoction of herbal teas. Like hibiscus tea is something I recommend to so many people, and jaswan is something that grows locally. It's a very commonly found flower here in India. Those petals, the tea made from that, just boil them for 5 minutes and have that, add some honey. It works so well. It's refreshing. It's got a nice tangy taste. So it wakes up your taste buds. It's good for hair. It's good for the liver. So there are multiple options. And if someone wants to spend a little time making a snack, then you could even do sprout bales, right? So you could keep your sprouts ready. You could put your moong or the other moth beans and all overnight, soak them. Morning, just throw the water out and allow them to sprout by evening. And then you could just put some chopped onion, some chopped coriander, put some maybe date tamarind chutney or some green chutney. And you have a really nice filling healthy snack that's ready to eat. And because of the process of sprouting, even the anti-nutrients, because of soaking and sprouting and germinating, anti-nutrients are washed away, right? So it becomes something that your body can absorb and assimilate easily. For people who want something crunchy, there are some people some people who want something crunchy when they're working, right? Kaam acha hota hai when I'm chawing on something. Okay, like I've heard so many people tell me this. My go-to snack for those people is roasted chana, because roasted chana, unlike peanuts, like a lot of people use nuts as their snack, but what happens is you can very easily overdose on nuts. Like you won't realize, you will start off with 1 cashew, 2 cashews, 2 almonds. Suddenly you would have eaten a full packet of cashew and almonds. And the problem there is, one is, of course, they're very high in calories. Not that I do calorie counting, but you can lose track, right? In the end, if you're overeating number of calories, it is going to result in some kind of biochemical mess up in your pathways. Second is the fatty acid ratios of these nuts, peanuts especially, too much omega-6. You don't want that going into your body. So roasted chana is a safer snack for somebody who wants to like do crunchy stuff. Not very high in carbs, does give good quality carbs, also has protein, and really fills you up. So those are the snack recommendations that are very, very easy, and you can quickly do it without having to think too much.
Sure. Wonderful. And Seema, would you like to say something?
Yeah, I would like to add some more, like whatever Mugdha says, but we can go for dhokla also, and chana goes very well. But frequently I tell the must for my patients are 1 handful of nuts, mixed nuts, and maybe sometimes peanuts also they can have, because for the healthy heart, we all are struggling with the heart and anxiety part. So that because of that parts, we are having the free radicals. So for my patient, it is a must to have one handful of nuts or peanuts. Another thing, I tell them to have popcorn. Popcorn is also, if the butter is not added, it is good for them. It is giving the good satiety value, and they can have one bowl of popcorn and not very much of calories. One dish I invented for myself, I started telling everyone, if the person is having light and masala tofu, along with that he can add lots of vegetables and the fruits and some green chutney and some lemon. So it has the mixed kind of taste. Sometimes it will give you the meetha, khatta kind of a taste. So it also goes very well. And jo afternoon wali bhook hoti hai, it's like 4 o'clock, then sometimes fruit also doesn't work. So this recipe really works well and it gives us satiety at that time. Smoothies also goes well. Smoothies are also, I mean, fruit can be added with the some portion of curd or yogurt or the fruit yogurt. These are also the healthier options. And sprouts chaat, bhel puri, these are the healthier options
Yes, very
one
true.
can
In
have.
fact, I would completely agree with both of you. And one more thing that I have noticed now is a lot of roasted grains are available, whole grains are available, like roasted oats and roasted gehu. So these are available at most of the bakery shops, and they're quite healthy. They have little salt and they don't have any oil as such. So for my patients, I do advise them, if they need snacks during the daytime, they can have these roasted oats or chana and such as such. And one more thing I would like to say here is that fruits are actually not bad. We Indians are very bad at eating fruits. We usually eat very little fruits. And we as doctors advise all our patients to have as much fruit as you can. Because even if you advise your patients to have fruit 4 to 5 times a day, that is the advice given by the American Diabetes Association for all diabetics. And it is not good only for diabetics, it is good for all individuals. Fruits are very good. They have a lot of fiber. They actually, when you are eating the whole fruit, you are having a lot of minerals, microelements, vitamins, which you otherwise don't eat. So I think we should not be giving the message from here that fruits are not good. You should have them in limited quantity. You should have as much fruit as you can. As I advise all my
Exactly.
patients that you try to have one fistful of fruit, any fruit, be it a cut fruit, be it a whole fruit, except for very high calorie and very sweet fruits like banana or this or how do you call it, sharifa, or very sweet fruits. You should have one fistful or one bowl of fruit 4 to 5 times a day if you can have that. Even if we recommend, it is not practically feasible, but if a person has that, it is actually very good. It is a good snack. So we should not refrain from advising fruits our uh, to our patients and whoso is listening to us. So now I'd
So
like to cover
when I
the yes.
So to my
when I say
patients, there are 3
limit,
times fruits are added.
it's
One is
not
in the
like
mid morning,
fruits.
and then with the salads and all, they can mix the fruits. Also, I
Yes,
forgot to mention the very good snack where also we can, fulfill the, liking towards having something salty and sweety all together. So that is mix of, seeds, pumpkin seeds, melon seeds, and all, along with some berries. So if one is having that
yes,
one handful, then it is also very much, healthy and refreshing, and person feels like I have eaten something.
very true, very true.
Yeah.
Now I'd like to come to Rajput sir. Sir, in conclusion, first of all, I would like to ask you a question because we are talking about success. So this is very important. I would request you to say few words about pushing boundaries, because when we are changing our lifestyle, when we are advising our whoso is listening to us to change their lifestyle, probably they have to push on their boundaries, probably they have to change. So what is your opinion? What message would you give to our listeners?
Thank you, Dr. Kesri. I can share again my personal experience.
Yes, sir.
I am a diabetic patient. Okay. And during pandemic, I learned a lot on my eating habit and my discipline in terms of balancing between exercising, eating, and my work-life balance. See, I started walking. I was never such a, because see, all other outdoor activities stopped during this period. So I started walking. Initially, I was walking only for half an hour in the morning, half an hour in the evening. And later on, I increased my walking 1.5 hours in the morning and 1.5 hours in the evening. Okay. This was my my routine. This is my routine these days. Okay, and I want to share with all the viewers that my dose for diabetes is reduced to half. Whatever I was taking earlier, now I am taking half of that dosage, and my blood sugar level is very balanced and fairly stable. My 3 monthly readings are also improved tremendously. I'm almost 5.9 to 6 now. I have lost 12 kgs of weight during my COVID time. I have started eating 5 times a day. I have 5 meals in a day. I think Seema was sharing that you should have more frequent meals, which is what I do, and I am taking all kinds of food. It is fairly balanced diet that I take. I take fruit in the mid-morning snack, and in the afternoon also I take fruit, and any fruit is taken by me. I mean, I'm not specific, including mango. I didn't stop during this period. This mango season, I'm sharing my personal experience. So doctors can say that have this and don't have that. I have nuts in at least 3 times a week. I also have a drink, but very specific. It's not that you go on a binge drinking. You have to decide that I'm going to have 1 drink or 2 drinks and nothing more than that, and on specific days. Otherwise, you're not supposed to drink, and if you have to drink, you fix days. I have fixed myself. Only on weekend I will drink. Otherwise, I will not drink. And if I drink, I will have 2 drinks and no more than 2 drinks. Okay. Then, in terms of my breakfast habits, I want to share that I take every day different breakfast. It's not a same breakfast. One day I have chilla, one day I have oats, and when I take oats, I put a lot of vegetables in those oats. Then I have this what do you call the paratha one day, and when my maid makes paratha, one day she makes jawar paratha, one day she makes a bajra paratha. Okay, and a lot of vegetables are put into the paratha itself. Paratha is very thin, and I don't take any milk or anything with my breakfast. And in the during the day, my lunch is very fixed. It's normally loki or ghee or whatever, the normal vegetable, and it's all, again, my quantity is very fixed. It's not that you go and pick up a huge bowl and consume. 1 katori dal, 1 katori vegetable, and 1 chapati I take during lunch, and lots of salad is what I take during my lunchtime. And similarly, my dinner is also same. And every meal is a fixed time. Okay. And I could do this only because of pandemic, I must share, because otherwise I used to keep very erratic times. So my 9:30 is my breakfast, 11:30 is my fruit time, 1:30 is my lunch, Then 5 o'clock is my tea time and 8:30 is my dinner. And that's how I have maintained. I have lost weight. My all parameters are perfectly okay. And I get up in the morning at 5:30, walk for 1.5 hours, then I have my tea. And then in the evening, 6 o'clock, I go for walk again, come back, have shower, and have my dinner. That's my routine, and I want to share this with all of you, my success story. Thank you.
That's really wonderful, sir. Thank you so much. That's very inspiring. And what I'm thinking is that we couldn't have scripted it better. You have absolutely concluded all the important things that we've been discussing about what should be had in breakfast, for example, what should be the gap, and what fruit should we eat, and about nuts. And you've actually narrated all this impromptu, extempore from your own life. So it is really wonderful, and it is actually very inspiring. It is very inspiring for all our listeners to listen to this from your own mouth, from in your own words, and understand that this is doable, that we all can do it. It is not something which is very superficial, which is very complicated, which is absolutely undoable. We all can do it. The important thing is that we need to change. We need to change our habits. We need to have that determination to change. Why should we change? We have to be healthy. We have to be fit in order to be successful. And there can be no better role model than you, sir. Thank you so much. Now I request you to give a vote of thanks to our panelists.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kesri. I will start with Mumta, who started off the session with a very beautiful definition on the whole subject. And what I liked about her discourse was when she said that we need to create triggers, to make a permanent change in our habits. It's a very good advice to our listener, and I'm sure another point that which was very pertinent that she made was about healing the gut. That's where we need to focus, and I'm sure people who are listening to her would have taken a note of it. And thank you very much, Muktaji, for coming and sharing your very valuable insight on this subject. Seema made several very pertinent comments about her learnings and sharing from her experience, where she talked about setting smart goals. And I totally agree that you need to set smart goals, and realistic goal setting is very, very important, because otherwise people don't remain motivated. If you set up unrealistic goals, and you don't achieve them. So once you've achieved a goal, then you can make a bigger goal, and your boundaries can keep on getting stretched, and until you have achieved what you set out yourself out on that. And she also talked about pre and prebiotic also. And the best thing was that she focused on Indian cuisine and Indian food habits, because I think most of our audience had to be over a period of time informed that our Indian habits and Indian food are best suited for our gut. All these fad foods that all of us are having, I don't know how good they are going forward in our life. She said that you can have curd. Curd does as good a job as flavored yogurts will do. So I liked her reasoning very much, and I want to thank her for all her advice to all our listeners. Thank you very much, Seemaji, for coming and sharing all your thoughts with us. So Ashiri was outstanding when she shared four-step approach to her advice to people who come and come in contact with her. And I'm sure listeners would have also taken note of everything that she had talked about, whether it was importance of gut. What you eat is very important. At the end of the day, your body is going to process what you're going to consume. And if you're not consuming the right thing, the input has to be right for any output. So therefore, people must consciously keep on looking at what they are consuming. She talked about human cells and bacterial cells, and how mental health issues are interlinked with all this. And 70% of immunity, she mentioned, is located in the gut. So it's very, very critical for people to know all this if they want to keep a healthy life. And everybody talked about importance of protein consumption, soya, tofu, protein, carbohydrates, fats. And I must thank you, Dr. Kesri. You brought out the issue of IBS also for the benefit of all the viewers who were here with us. And you brought out the importance of multigrains. India is a country. We are, all talking about quinoa and all in one part of the world, and it's become a superfood. But India has so many superfoods, and unfortunately, we have not been able to market all our superfoods so effectively that you find young children feeling very happy having a aloo tikki burger, but not having aloo tikki. I mean, what an amazing marketing job done by the people who are selling aloo tikki burgers, and how we have demarketed aloo tikki. Not that I'm saying what is good, what is bad, but see how marketing plays a role in the life. So I want to thank you. And before I close, I want to just say that regular exercise routine is very important for everybody. And I think this is one of the messages that was given by all the panelists. And regular eating habits with the right amount of gap between the meals and balanced diet is most critical, which has protein, carbs, and fat. Use of millets, importance that has been shared with the people is an excellent thing. And there are so many options that our panelists have suggested to us on our healthy snacks. So thank you very much for coming and sharing your knowledge and experience with all of us, and wish you all the very best. Really grateful. Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much.
Thank you.
It was an honor being here. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much to everyone for being here and for spending your time with us and giving us such valuable input. And thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Namaskar and Jai Hind.
Jai Hind.
All right.